All right, well, we got a little something different today. We're going to do a slight pivot on this 365-day journey. What I like to do is I usually like to plan out my week, and I know kind of what content I'm going to shoot or what we're going to be talking about so that I can keep up with a post a day for 365 days. But I knew at some point I'd have to make a pivot. And this week is one of those pivot weeks. Now that breeze might get a little bit loud. Got some airplanes flying up overhead, got some neighbors working on some things, but I thought this would be a good time to just sit and talk a little bit about worry, fear, and anxiety. I tell you what, in this past week, I've gotten so many questions about those things, about worry, fear, and anxiety. And as I thought about it, I thought this would be a good time to share a resource that has helped me in my own journey with those things. In fact, about a year and a half ago, I had some neck trauma, and I had probably a 6 or 8 month journey of negativity. I mean, I could not get out of the cycle of anxiety for what was probably 8 months. I was seeing specialists. I was going through everything that you have to go through to try to get better, but my thought life was just riddled with negative thoughts. I would say I had 80% negative thoughts and 20% positive, and I'm a pretty optimistic person. But then I found this book, Conquer Worry and Anxiety by Dr. Daniel Amen. And this book changed my life. It flipped it for me. It led me to 80% positive thoughts. And you're still going to have those 20 or 10% negative thoughts that creep in. But you got to get control of those thoughts so that your thought life is not dominated by the negative. Because as you're going to see, that doesn't lead to good things. So I thought, how would I walk through this conversation with you based on this book? And I recommend this book to a lot of different people. But I thought this would make a phenomenal 4 or 5 day conversation with you and me. So today, I want to talk about the introduction of the book. And I've just got a few thoughts I want to share with you. I think you should pick the book up, and I think you should put it in your leadership library just to have for yourself, for your thinking. But you don't have to pick it up to get the most out of the series. Here's the thought that I want to kind of kick us off with. What you focus on grows. What you focus on grows. On page 1, Dr. Amen says, you know you can make yourself feel worse almost immediately by dwelling on the worst possible outcome of a situation. That's what I was doing. My mind consistently went to the worst possible outcome. Spending time with highly toxic people or sabotaging each of your senses with dreadful sounds, smells, taste, touches, and sights. What you think about, what you focus on can have your 5 senses working against you. But then he goes on to say, you can just as easily make yourself feel better through simple choices like practicing gratitude, conquering negative thoughts, and using many other techniques that I'm going to demonstrate throughout this book. What you focus on grows. I had to take a good, long, hard look at what I was focusing on. And then I needed to make some changes. He goes on to say they teach that only 3 things change behavior in the long run. 3 things. Number 1, an epiphany. Number 2, a change in the environment, what and who surrounds you. And then number 3, which is what we're going to talk about in the majority of our conversation, is taking baby steps. Taking baby steps. In fact, this part reminded me of Dave Ramsey of Financial Peace University, of getting your financial house in order. Sometimes it takes an epiphany to get your financial house in order. Sometimes it takes an environment change. Stop hanging around those people because you're spending more money. You're trying to keep up with the Joneses. And then sometimes it's taking baby steps. And that's what reminded me of Financial Peace University, the baby steps, like save $1,000 in your emergency fund. Yeah, we all want full bank accounts, but a baby step is just getting to the $1,000 mark. That's what we're going to talk about. Taking baby steps. And we do that by doing tiny habits. And Dr. Amen says, tiny habits are the easy changes that will boost your sense of accomplishment and competence, and over time, evolve into bigger changes. That was true for me. I made these tiny adjustments that compounded into changing my life and changing the way that I think about things. So I want us to walk through that together. I think it will be helpful for you just as it was for me. And I want to finish today with how he starts the introduction, right here, which he starts with Philippians 4, 6 through 7. It says, don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Not some things. Pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He has done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and your mind as you live in Christ Jesus. One part I want to point out on that is pray about everything. Everything. Especially what you're going through right now, the worry you're feeling, the anxiety you're feeling, because He is the giver of perfect peace. I found that out firsthand in what I was going through. And I think over the next few days, as you and I spend time looking at worry and anxiety, that's my hope for you, is perfect peace. I'll see you tomorrow.